Greek mythology nerds, listen up. The Iliad and the Odyssey are 2 parts of an 8-part series on the Trojan War. We lost the other 6 parts, but we know what's in them. So get ready for an 8-part series. The Cypria, or Cypria in Greek, was a prologue to the Iliad and the Odyssey that was written later. If you think of the Trojan War as the MCU, with the Iliad as the first Iron Man, the Cypria is the first Captain America. They made it later than the starting point, but it comes earlier in the timeline. I know, it's not a neat comparison, but it's what we're working with right now. The Cypria was probably written by a guy named Stesinis. Okay, we're going to take that slow. From the island of Cyprus. Stesinis lives in the 600s BCE, not too long after the Iliad and the Odyssey are first created. Side note, I say created and not written down because they were originally spoken and performed as oral traditions. Once Stesinis is kicking his feet on the beaches of Cyprus, it'd be another 100 years or so before any of this gets written down. Stesinis assumes that people already know the story of the Trojan War by the time he writes the Cypria, and in both the Iliad and the Odyssey, we get these little hints peppered in of how the war got started. The Trojan prince Paris comes and steals Helen, the wife of a Greek king named Menelaus. The Greeks retaliate. It's an excuse for the biggest, baddest, oldest, meet me and the boys out on the playground after school situation. We don't know Stesinis very well. We don't know if he knew Homer, and we don't have a ton of evidence that he really existed, although we do have some. So if we assume he did exist, which I think is a fair bet, he took the stories of the Trojan War that took place before the events of the Iliad and were just sort of floating around the public consciousness at the time, and bundled them all up into the Cypria. Sure enough, Aristotle, that Aristotle, wasn't a huge fan of the poem. He said that compared to Homer's writing, the Cypria was more of a series of events rather than a consistent, focused narrative. Which brings me to my next point. We lost the Cypria ages ago. So how do we know what's in it? Because good or bad, it's part of the canon. And people wrote about it back then and quoted it as if it was part of the canon. So what's in it? The Cypria starts with a wedding. The wedding of a Greek king named Peleus to a nymph named Thetis. And it's a bash, right? The gods are invited, everybody throws down, except Eris, the goddess of disharmony. She's not invited, because why would you invite a goddess of chaos to a wedding? Eris is pissed, so she sneaks into the garden of the Hesperides. The Hesperides are the nymphs of the golden hour of sunset, steals an apple, carves to the fairest on the skin, turns invisible, sneaks into the wedding, and rolls the apple down the table. 3 goddesses claim the apple. Hera, the goddess of marriage, Athena, the goddess of strategy, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love. They go to Zeus and say, give the apple to whichever one of us is the fairest, which is hilarious because Hera, the goddess of marriage, is Zeus's wife. But Zeus says, I can't do that, give it to that guy over there. He seems trustworthy, so they go to that guy over there, who is Paris, the prince of Troy. And they try to bribe him, right? Hera offers him the throne, Athena offers him wisdom, but Aphrodite offers him the most beautiful woman in the world. Helen, Queen of Sparta, wife of King Menelaus. Paris gives Aphrodite the apple and gets Helen in return. Men. Paris goes home, builds a ship, ignores 2 of his siblings who can tell the future, sneaks into Sparta while Menelaus is out, and nabs Helen and takes her back to Troy. We also don't know if Helen has any consent over this, by the way. The messenger goddess Iris tells Menelaus his wife's gone. Menelaus gets pissed and gathers everybody who has a crush on Helen, which is everybody. His brother Agamemnon, the big king of all of Greece, expands this to everyone who can fight. Let's go to Troy and get her back. They offer a sacrifice to the gods. Their prophet says this is going to be a war that's going to last a full decade, and they set out to sea. They reach Troy and burn it to the ground, except, oh shoot, that wasn't Troy. They got it mixed up with another town. You know how that goes. So the gods throw a storm and send him back to Greece. They offer a sacrifice again. This time, Agamemnon decides to sacrifice his own daughter to Artemis, who he'd pissed off earlier. Don't worry, Artemis makes her immortal. They set sail again, they gotta leave a guy behind on an island, and they make it to the shore of the actual Troy this time. And we know that's the actual Troy this time because when they do land, Paris's older brother, Hector, also Prince of Troy, shoots out and attacks him. A Greek warrior named Achilles, oh shoot, I forgot about Achilles. Legendary warrior, almost completely immortal. His parents were the ones getting married at the start of this. He'd already been born. Anyway, when they land at Troy, Hector attacks, so Achilles attacks back and drives the Trojans back into the walled city of Troy. They demand that the Trojans release Helen. The Trojans say no, so the Greeks waste all the little villages and everything outside the walls of the city. The story, as far as we can tell, ends here, and I'm leaving out the details, but laying waste to an entire region takes time. And the Iliad starts with laying waste to a town. So the Cypria's ending almost, not quite, lines up neatly with the Iliad's beginning. Props to Stesinis for a good fanfic that lines up with the original. Next week's the Iliad. Stay tuned.